as New Zealanders, we gravitate to the coast. It's our identity. And think about the best times in our lives, you know, the precious times. We're not talking about 40 hours a week at work, are we? By and large, we're talking about our holidays with our families, and we're talking about the fun times on the weekends. The coast is why we live here. We live here because we want to be close to the sea. We want to be able to play with our children on the sand.
The west coast of the North Island is to many a national treasure. That's why when Stephen Frew found out 2 mining companies were wanting to explore its mineral-rich black sands, he formed a protest group, Kiwis Against Sand Mining, or KASM. Their main concern that seabed mining could ruin beaches and devastate marine life. Now here I've conveniently found a map of the North Island. The dead crab is Auckland, this shoal here is New Plymouth. Now Iron Ore New Zealand already has the prospecting licence for 2 areas down near New Plymouth and 1 area up by Auckland, in all over 1,200 square kilometres. Now a second company wants the exploration or prospecting rights to the rest of the coast, stretching all the way from Taranaki up to this mussel shell, the Kaipara Harbour. In all, a staggering 4,320 square kilometres of west coast seabed. The second application has been turned down, but KASM believes now the intention's there, mining is inevitable. KASM maintains that will cause irreparable damage to beaches.
All of this bank, I wouldn't get too close. All of this bank is...
So this stuff could literally go now?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't stand on the edge of it. It's not very well supported. And if you have a look over the edge there, you can see our
this pipe,
community infrastructure, our outfall pipe.
That's the town sewage pipe, is it?
It is. Exposed by erosion.
So when would that have been covered?
Probably 6 months ago.
6 months ago?
It was covered.
Erosion's already a major concern in Raglan and other areas along the coast. Stephen Frew fears seabed mining will disrupt natural replacement of sand and make the erosion worse.
You dig a hole in the sea and you expose areas of the seabed that haven't been exposed to the currents before, and you create a deficit of sand, then that deficit will move. The sea will attempt to fill the hole by its own means. And, yeah, there's no way they can put it back. They don't know the effects of the mining on the seabed, let alone the effects of the effects.
Oceanographer Mike Hilton agrees that is a possibility.
There's the potential for mining to cause massive impacts where mining occurs, but also where sand is redeposited on the seabed. And so if mining removes some of the sand that would otherwise be part of that beach system, then there is a potential for the coast to erode, or for natural erosion, which occurs of course, to be made worse.
But the company already exploring the seabed, Iron Ore New Zealand, says it's complying with an international standard which doesn't permit mining within the beach system.
We are mining in the deep sea area a material that's very heavy and doesn't shift around anyway. Up near the beach, it's mixed up with silica sand and it comes and goes because it's more easy to move by the wave action. And that's something you must avoid.
We've had correspondence with groups in Indonesia who were told similar things, and they're now spending millions of dollars building seawalls to stop their villages disappearing into the sea.
Can you guarantee that the iron sand mining won't go ahead if it's proven there is an environmental impact?
There are so many mechanisms in place to protect the environment in New Zealand, more so than any other country that I know of, that there would never be anything that would give the local people on the coastline a moment's concern.
However, there is the other company looking to mine the seabed. Black Sand Exploration was proposing mining up to the surf line, well within the beach system. When I rang Black Sand Exploration at its base in Australia, its director told me he wouldn't give an interview on camera. But he did confirm that he was in the process of putting together a new project team. Its aim to be successful when they reapply for a new exploration licence in 18 months' time. It's persistence like this that is urging protesters on. From family protest in New Plymouth to marches in Auckland. KASM demands the government stops and listens.
We've just invited a representative from Crown Minerals, which is the Crown agency that grants prospecting licences for seabed mining, to come and talk to the group here today so that they can hear our point of view and why so many Kiwis don't want the sand stolen from our seashore and sold to the highest overseas bidder.
1, 2, 3, 4, no, I don't comprehend.
The more ministers of the Crown that we've talked to and been fobbed off, the more we've dealt with these people from the mining companies and taken their information at face value that we couldn't check, we've realised that it is very likely to happen, that it's not just possible, it's more than possible.
KASM says the only way to protect this part of New Zealand's identity is a change in the law, forever forbidding mining of the seabed.
And joining me now, Adam Feely of Crown Minerals, Peter Canvan from the Taranaki District Council, and Green Party co-leader Jeanette Fitzsimons. Good evening to you all. Jeanette,
Good evening, Steve.
should we be looking at environmentally sustainable mining? I mean, there could be a lot of money in it for the country.
Well, the problem is you've got this thin end of the wedge through the back door that the current law sets up, whereby when you apply for a prospecting licence to take a few samples, nobody can ask you about the effects of eventual mining. And by the time you actually apply for a mining licence, you've spent millions of dollars, you've revved up the shareholders into thinking that there's big money to be made here, and it's very, very hard for anyone to get it turned down. But actually, the ecological impact of this large-scale mining, where these proposals will eventually lead, if they're allowed to, is huge. You suck up or dredge up vast areas of the seafloor, you kill every living thing that lives on the seabed, you then put the sand back and it drifts over new areas and smothers them, you devastate the food chain for the marine community, and all of this is going on in the only habitat in the world of the world's rarest and most critically endangered dolphin, the Maui dolphin, of which there's only 111 left. They breed so slowly that if you kill one every 6 years, you push them into extinction.
It's incredible, isn't it? So that you think KASM's right when they say you open the door, let them in, and the momentum becomes so great you just can't stop it.
Well, why would anybody put all that money into prospecting if they're not going to be allowed to mine? And I actually believe we need to change the law so that you look at the beginning. Is this a place where you'd ever allow mining? Is this the sort of mining you'd ever allow? And if not, don't have a prospecting licence. You're just leading people up the garden path.
Adam Feely from Crown Minerals, you are to some extent one of the gatekeepers certainly in this. I mean, can you tell us, I know one of your responsibilities is financial, what is in it for us as a nation on the plus side?
Well, right now we don't know. There's probably a couple of points I should make at the outset. There is no mining of the seabed in New Zealand in relation to iron ore or gold, or for anything else for that matter. Secondly, this is not new. We have been prospecting and exploring the seabed in New Zealand since the 1960s. Today, nothing has demonstrated that there is any economically viable mineral other than oil and gas, which we already mine on the seabed. There is no economically viable mineral out there. The purpose of prospecting is to get the information to the Crown. That's all the Crown seeks with prospecting, is to understand what might be the economic resource out there and then make a decision.
Now, Peter Canvan, then I guess it comes to you at that point, doesn't it, as the Regional Council, and that's where the Resource Management Act is supposed to look after the environment, correct?
That's right, Susan.
So how does that work?
Once we receive, or if we receive an application for resource consent in relation to this project, it will likely be called what we call a restricted coastal activity. It will become publicly notified. We will hold a hearing of the application at which we expect submitters both in support and opposition to the application will be present, and our hearing committee will make a recommendation ultimately to the Minister of Conservation, who will make that final determination as to whether the resource consent will be granted or not.
You know, because, I mean, we've all heard from experts who say one thing, and I bet if you can find an expert to say one thing, I can find an expert to say another, and that is often the problem with these processes, isn't it?
I'm sure you're right, but at this stage, Susan, we don't have any consent applications with us, and we've only had some very, very, very preliminary discussion with a company called Iron Ore New Zealand Limited. We haven't had any discussion with that company for at least 5 months now.
So I'm just not sure where their project is.
Let me ask you, Peter, do you think you've got the muscle, if you like, to fight off? I mean, the scenario Jeanette's talking about and KASM's talking about, you know, they get a role, they pump up expectations and then they throw millions at actually getting these sort of licences. Do you feel you've got the muscle to fight that?
Yes.
That's a short answer, isn't it? The Resource Management Act, Jeanette, is it right for being used here? I mean, everything got kind of thrown into that at this point, didn't it? Is it a safeguard enough?
Well, the purpose of the RMA is to protect the environment and to protect public participation in making decisions about their community. The bit that keeps getting eroded further away is the right of the public to have a say. The people who live in those coastal communities have got to be the ones in the end who decide whether they want the seabed mined or not. It's not just a technical decision, it's also a social decision about the future of our country and the way we want to live and what we value here.
You talked earlier about, you know, the negative impacts. I mean, where have you seen it happen? What sort of evidence do you have to prove that?
You don't actually have evidence of what the ecological effects will be in a particular area until you do it, and then by the time you've got the evidence it's too late. You know, we don't really know a lot about how it will affect certain species except common sense. You vacuum up large areas of the seabed and process it, nothing is left alive from those seabed communities, ecological communities that live there. You then look at the food chains that they support. You can go quite a long way on theory without actually doing the experiment.
Adam Fairley, do you want to comment on that? I'm not sure if that's your area or not.
Yeah, a couple of comments. I mean, Jeanette makes a very good point. The people need the right to make informed decisions. That's the point of prospecting. It's very easy to speculate about a lot of things. At the moment, all that is happening, companies are going out there and assess what may or may not be there. And the country needs to be in a position to say, what is the economic value of this resource? What's the conservation value that needs to counterbalance that? The second thing, the scale thing, I think, in fact, we're losing sight of what may be the scale of the activity. At best, at the moment, about 3% of New Zealand's exclusive economic zone is under permit.